Captain Lee Taman stood in the Great Hall of Nexus Prime, watching as alien delegates filled the massive chamber. The building was huge, big enough to hold representatives from 847 different species. Some walked on legs like humans, others floated in special tanks filled with gas. A few were made of living crystal that sparkled under the bright lights. Taman had been to many council meetings before, but this one felt different. The air was thick with tension. Alien voices whispered in languages he could not understand. Their words mixed together into a low buzz that filled the room. He could feel their eyes on him and Ambassador Park Minji, who stood beside him. They were the only humans in a sea of strange beings who had lived among the stars for thousands of years. "They are afraid of us," Park whispered to him. She was a small woman, but her voice was strong and clear. "Look at how they avoid our eyes." Taman nodded. He had noticed it too. When he first arrived on Nexus Prime 3 days ago, alien delegates would at least nod when they passed him in the halls. Now they turned away or crossed to the other side of the corridor. Something had changed. The great speaker's platform rose from the center of the chamber. It was made of the same white stone as the rest of the building, but it glowed with its own light. A tall, thin creature stepped onto it. This was Speaker Vorthak Prime, leader of the crystal beings who had ruled parts of the galaxy since before humans learned to make fire. "The council will come to order," Vorthak Prime said. His voice came from speakers built into the walls, translated into hundreds of languages at once. "Today we vote on Resolution 7749X. Taman felt his heart beat faster. He knew what that resolution said. He had read it many times in the past week, hoping he had missed something. But the words were always the same. The council wanted to stop humans from spreading to new worlds. They wanted to cut Earth's space fleet by 90%. They wanted to lock humanity in a small box of space and keep them there forever. "Before we vote," Vorthak Prime continued, "we will hear from the human delegation." All eyes turned to Taman and Park. The chamber became very quiet. Taman could hear his own breathing as he walked to the speaker's platform. Each step echoed in the huge room. When he reached the center, he looked up at the hundreds of alien faces staring down at him. "Honored delegates," he began, his voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. 50 years ago, humanity joined this council as friends. We came here seeking peace and knowledge. We have fought beside you against pirates and raiders. We have shared our discoveries and our resources. We have proven that we can be trusted. A creature that looked like a giant tree with eyes rustled its branches. Others made clicking sounds with their claws. Taman could not tell if they were listening or just waiting for him to finish. "Yes, humans have built new colonies," he said. "Yes, we have grown fast. But growth is not conquest. We have never taken a world that belonged to another species. We have never forced our ways on others. We build on empty worlds and make them homes for our families." He paused and looked around the chamber. Some aliens seemed to be thinking about his words. Others had already made up their minds. "The resolution before you today is not about keeping peace," Taman continued. "It is about fear. You fear what humans might become. But I ask you to judge us by what we have done, not by what you imagine we might do." When he finished speaking, the chamber was quiet for a long moment. Then Vorthak Prime spoke again. "Thank you, Captain Taman. The council will now vote." What happened next felt like a bad dream to Taman. One by one, the species announced their votes. The Quillen, who lived in gas clouds, voted yes. The Meridian Empire voted yes. The Stellar Federation voted yes. Each yes vote was like a knife in his chest. Some smaller species voted no. The Kepler colonies, who had traded with humans for decades, voted against the resolution. So did the Free Worlds Alliance and a few others. But they were not enough. Ambassador Park kept count on a small device. When the voting ended, she showed Taman the numbers. 731 species had voted to restrict humanity. Only 89 had voted against it. 27 had chosen not to vote at all. "The resolution passes," Vorthak Prime announced. "Humanity has one standard year to comply with all restrictions." Taman felt like the floor had dropped out from under him. Around the chamber, many aliens looked pleased. Some were even celebrating. They had just voted to cage an entire species, and they were happy about it. Park stepped forward to the speaking platform. Her face was calm, but Taman could see the anger burning in her eyes. "The human delegation accepts the council's decision," she said. Her voice was steady and cold. "We will begin our withdrawal immediately." She paused, and for a moment the chamber was completely silent. "But let me be very clear about something," Park continued. You have made your choice today. You have chosen fear over friendship. You have chosen to see us as enemies instead of allies. Remember this moment, because you will never get another chance to have humanity as your willing partners. The aliens shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Some of the smaller species looked worried. We came to you in peace, Park said. We offered you our friendship. Today you have rejected both. You think you have solved a problem, but you have created a much bigger one. Live with the consequences. With those words, she turned and walked away from the platform. Taman followed her, and together they left the great chamber. Behind them, the aliens began to talk among themselves. Their voices grew louder and more excited as the humans disappeared from view. As they walked through the corridors of Nexus Prime toward their ship, Park spoke quietly to Taman. Send a message to Admiral Kim on Earth, she said. Tell him the vote failed. Tell him it is time for Phase 2. Taman looked at her with surprise. Phase 2? Park smiled, but it was not a happy smile. Did you really think we came here just to make speeches? We knew this might happen. We have been preparing for this day since we first learned about the resolution. They reached their ship and climbed aboard. As they lifted off from Nexus Prime, Taman looked back at the planet below. The council building looked small from space, just a white dot on the surface of a gray world. What happens now? He asked. Now we show them what happens when you try to cage humanity, Park replied. They think they have won. They have no idea what they have just started. The ship jumped to faster than light speed, carrying them away from Nexus Prime and toward Earth. Behind them, the Galaxy Council celebrated their victory over the human threat. They believed they had saved the galaxy from conquest. They could not have been more wrong. 6 months had passed since the council vote. Director Cho Yuna stood in her secret office deep beneath the mountains of Earth, watching screens that showed human colonies across the galaxy. To anyone watching from outside, it looked like humanity was following the council's orders. Ships were leaving disputed worlds. Colonies appeared to be shutting down. Military fleets were pulling back to Earth space, but appearances could be very deceiving. Status report, Yuna said to the room full of scientists and military officers around her. Colonel Kang Wubin stepped forward. He was a tall man with scars on his hands from years of combat. All colonies are now running on phase cloak technology. The council thinks we abandoned 43 worlds. In reality, we just made them invisible. Dr. Song Jiwoo looked up from her computer. She was young for such an important position, but her mind worked in ways that amazed even other scientists. The quantum phase generators are working perfectly. Council ships have passed within a few thousand kilometers of New Seoul without detecting anything. Yuna nodded. The plan was working better than they had hoped. When the council voted to restrict humanity, they thought they were forcing humans to retreat. They had no idea that humanity had spent years preparing for this exact situation. What about the new drive systems? Yuna asked. The temporal displacement drives are ready for field testing, Song replied. We can move a ship from Earth to the outer rim in less than an hour. The council still thinks it takes us 3 weeks. The screens around the room showed the hidden truth. While the galaxy believed humans were packing up and going home, they were actually building the largest secret network in galactic history. Invisible bases floated in empty space. Cloaked research stations studied alien technology. Hidden factories produced weapons and ships that did not officially exist. Kang pulled up a star map on the main screen. Red dots marked human colonies that the council knew about. Blue dots showed the hidden ones. There were 3 times as many blue dots as red ones. We have sleeper agents in position throughout council space, Kang reported. Agent Lim Soo-young has reached the rank of senior military advisor in the Vorthak Fleet Command. She sends us their battle plans before their own captains see them. Yuna smiled. Lim was one of their best people. She had spent 5 years slowly working her way up through the alien military ranks. The crystal beings trusted her completely. They had no idea she was human. The aliens think we are primitive, Yuna said. They see our technology as crude and simple. This gives us a huge advantage, she was right. For thousands of years, the older species had grown comfortable with their superior attitudes. They built their technology to last for centuries, changing it very slowly. Humans built their technology to improve every few months. While the aliens used the same weapons and ships their grandparents had used, humans were constantly inventing new ones. Show me the stealth field test, Yuna ordered. Song pressed some buttons, and one of the screens showed a recording from last week. A human destroyer appeared to be flying through empty space. Suddenly, a massive Quillen battleship decloaked right in front of it. The Quillen ship was 10 times bigger than the human vessel. The Quillen captain demanded that we surrender, Song explained. He said humans were not allowed in that sector anymore. On the screen, the human destroyer seemed to power down its weapons and prepare to be boarded. The Quillen ship moved closer, confident in its victory. Then something impossible happened. The human ship vanished. Full-phase cloak activation, Song said proudly. The destroyer became completely invisible. The Quillen spent 6 hours looking for it. Where was our ship during those 6 hours? Yuna asked. Song grinned. Floating right next to the Quillen battleship, recording everything. We now have complete scans of their newest weapons and shield systems. Kang brought up another display. The council races are starting to notice some problems. Equipment failures, communication blackouts, mysterious sensor readings. They do not know what is causing it. Because they do not expect us to be testing our new toys in their backyards, Yuna said. Keep the tests small and random. We do not want them to see a pattern yet. The truth was that human technology had advanced far beyond what anyone in the galaxy imagined. The Neural Network Integration Project allowed human pilots to connect their minds directly to their ships. This made human vessels faster and more responsive than anything the aliens had ever seen. What about Project Looking Glass? Yuna asked. A new officer spoke up. Lieutenant Park Kyungmin was in charge of the galaxy's most secret intelligence operation. We have listening posts monitoring every major alien world. We know about their military meetings before they happen. We have their communication codes. We can read their private messages. This was perhaps the most important part of the human plan. While the aliens thought they were discussing humanity in private, humans were listening to every word. The Council had no secrets from Earth anymore. The Vorthak Empire is planning something big, Park continued. They want to make an example of one of our colonies. Show the galaxy what happens when species do not follow Council orders. Which colony? Yuna asked. New Busan. They think it is one of our most important worlds. Yuna and Kang exchanged glances. New Busan was important, but not in the way the aliens thought. It was one of their testing grounds for the new defense systems. Let them come, Yuna said quietly. It will be educational for both sides. Song looked worried. Director, are you sure we are ready? If the aliens discover what we have been doing, they will not discover anything, Yuna replied. Because they are not looking for it. They think they won 6 months ago. They think humans are beaten and broken. They cannot imagine that we might be stronger now than we were before the vote. She turned to face the entire room. Remember why we are doing this. The Council did not just vote against human expansion. They voted against human freedom. They decided that humanity was too dangerous to be allowed to grow. They want to keep us locked up like animals in a zoo. The room was silent. Everyone understood what was at stake. We tried to be their friends, Yuna continued. We tried to be good members of their council. They rejected us. So now we will show them what rejection costs. Kang nodded. The Shadow Fleet is almost ready. General Han Sunho has been training the crews for months. When we reveal ourselves, we will have more ships than the 3 largest alien fleets combined. And they will never see us coming, Song added. Our ships will appear out of nowhere, right in their home systems. Yuna looked at the star map again. Soon those blue dots would become visible to the whole galaxy. The aliens would learn that humanity had not retreated. They had not given up. They had spent 6 months getting ready for war. How long until Phase 3 begins? She asked. 3 weeks, Kang replied. The Council is planning their big celebration on Nexus Prime. They want to show off how well they handled the human problem. Perfect, Yuna said. Let them celebrate. Let them feel proud of their victory. It will make the surprise so much sweeter. As the meeting ended and the officers left to return to their secret work, Yuna stayed behind to watch the screens. Across the galaxy, hidden human bases hummed with activity. Invisible ships moved through space like ghosts. Sleeper agents sent reports from deep inside alien governments. The Council thought they had caged humanity. They had no idea that they had actually awakened something far more dangerous than anything they had feared before. When humans were friends, they shared their knowledge freely and helped protect the weak. But when humans were enemies, Yuna smiled as she thought about what was coming. The galaxy was about to learn a very important lesson about the difference between those two things. 1 year had passed since the Galaxy Council voted to restrict humanity. The Great Chamber on Nexus Prime was decorated with banners and lights for a special celebration. Representatives from hundreds of species had gathered to mark what they called Pacification Day. the anniversary of their successful control of the human threat. Captain Lee Taman and Ambassador Park. Minji walked through the same corridors they had left in defeat 12 months earlier. This time, alien delegates smiled at them with smug satisfaction. The crystal beings of the Vorthak Empire sparkled with what seemed like joy. The gas-dwelling Quillen floated in their tanks, making happy, bubbling sounds. "Look how proud they are," Park whispered to Taman as they entered the great chamber. "They think they have tamed us." Taman nodded but said nothing. His face showed no emotion as he took his place in the human delegation section. Around them, aliens celebrated their victory over the upstart species that had dared to grow too fast. Speaker Vorthak Prime stood at the central platform, his crystal body reflecting the lights like a living rainbow. "Today we celebrate the wisdom of the Council," he announced. "1 year ago we faced a crisis. The human species was expanding too quickly, taking too many worlds, building too many ships. We could have let this continue until war was inevitable. Instead, we acted with wisdom and strength." The chamber filled with alien cheers and strange musical sounds that served as applause for non-human species. "The restrictions we placed on humanity have worked perfectly," Vorthak Prime continued. "Human expansion has stopped. Their military has been reduced. The threat to galactic stability has been eliminated." More cheers echoed through the hall. Taman watched alien delegates congratulate each other on their successful management of the human problem. They had no idea what was really coming. As part of today's ceremony, Vorthak Prime said, "We will hear from the human delegation about their compliance with council restrictions." All eyes turned to the human section. Taman stood and walked to the speaking platform, just as he had done 1 year ago. But this time felt very different. This time he was not here to ask for mercy or understanding. This time, he was here to deliver a message. "Honored delegates," Taman began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. "1 year ago you voted to restrict humanity. You told us we could not expand to new worlds. You ordered us to reduce our military. You demanded that we stay in a small area of space." He paused and looked around the chamber. Every alien was listening carefully, expecting to hear about human surrender and compliance. "I am here to report that humanity has followed your instructions exactly," Taman said. "We have withdrawn from the worlds you told us to abandon. We have reduced our visible military presence. We have stayed within the boundaries you set for us." Satisfied murmurs rippled through the alien audience. This was exactly what they wanted to hear. "However," Taman continued, "there is something else I need to tell you." The chamber became very quiet. Something in his tone had changed. "You made a mistake 1 year ago," Taman said. "You thought you were solving a problem. You thought you were preventing a war. But what you actually did was start one." Confused whispers began among the aliens. This was not the speech they had expected. Ambassador Park stood up in the human section. She looked directly at Vorthak Prime and spoke one simple word: "Decloak." For a moment nothing happened. Then on every screen in the chamber, views from space around Nexus Prime appeared. The space around the planet looked exactly as it had moments before, empty except for the few ships that had brought delegates to the ceremony. Then, suddenly, it was not empty anymore. Ships began appearing out of nowhere, first dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. Massive human warships materialized in perfect formation around the planet. They had been there all along, invisible and waiting. The alien delegates stared at the screens in shock. The space around Nexus Prime was now filled with more human ships than most species had in their entire fleets. But the screens showing local space were not the only ones changing. Displays from across the galaxy showed the same thing happening everywhere. Around every major alien world, human fleets were appearing from nowhere. The Vorthak homeworld was surrounded. The Quillen capital system was filled with human ships. Even the most remote and secret military bases found themselves facing human vessels that should not have existed. "Impossible," Vorthak Prime whispered, his crystal body flickering with confused light patterns. A new voice filled the chamber. President Yoon Jaemin of Earth appeared as a holographic image above the central platform. He was a calm-looking man with gray hair and tired eyes. "Greetings, Galaxy Council," President Yoon said. "I am sorry I could not attend your celebration in person. I have been rather busy this past year." The chamber was completely silent now. Even the smallest aliens had stopped moving. "You see," President Yoon continued, "while you were congratulating yourselves on restricting humanity, We were working. We were building. We were preparing. He gestured, and the screens around the chamber changed again. Now they showed human colonies that the Council thought had been abandoned. But these colonies were not empty. They were thriving, protected by advanced shields that made them invisible to alien sensors. Did you really think we would just give up? President Yoon asked. Did you imagine that humanity would simply accept being caged? You have been watching us for 50 years. Have we ever seemed like the kind of species that gives up easily? Agent Lim Soo-young, who had been sitting with the Vorthak delegation in her disguise as a military advisor, stood up and removed a device from her uniform. Her appearance shimmered and changed, revealing her true human form. We have been among you all this time, she said, listening to your plans, learning your secrets, preparing for this day. Panic began to spread through the chamber. If humans had been hiding among them for years, what else did they not know? The restrictions you placed on us are now null and void, President Yoon announced. Humanity withdraws from the Galaxy Council permanently. We claim sovereignty over all space currently occupied by human beings, which, as you can see, is considerably more than you realized. General Han Sun-ho appeared beside the president in the hologram. Any attempt to enforce the old restrictions will be considered an act of war. Any attack on human colonies or ships will be met with immediate retaliation. To prove their point, the screens showed 12 major alien defense networks suddenly going dark. Not destroyed, simply turned off. The message was clear. Humanity could have destroyed them if they had wanted to. You told us 1 year ago that we were too dangerous to be allowed to grow, President Yoon said. You were right. But you made one critical error. You tried to stop us after we had already become dangerous. The president's image began to fade. You wanted to prevent human conquest of the galaxy. Instead, you have ensured it. The difference is that now it will not be a friendly takeover. You have made us your enemies when we wanted to be your partners. As the hologram disappeared, the chamber erupted in chaos. Alien delegates shouted at each other in dozens of languages. Some demanded immediate military action. Others called for emergency negotiations. A few simply stared at the screens, trying to understand how their perfect plan had gone so wrong. Vorthak Prime struggled to restore order. This is impossible, he declared. Human technology cannot do this. They are primitive. They are new to space. Ambassador Park walked calmly to the speaking platform. The chamber gradually became quiet as she began to speak. You keep calling us primitive, she said. You keep forgetting that primitive species do not stay primitive forever. While you spent centuries using the same old technology, we spent decades inventing new technology. While you rested on the glory of your ancient civilizations, we built something better. She smiled. And it was not a friendly smile. You had 1 year to learn what happens when you try to cage humanity, she said. Class is now over. We hope you were paying attention. With those words, the human delegation left the chamber for the second time. But this time they were not leaving in defeat. This time they were leaving as the new masters of the galaxy. Behind them, the Galaxy Council fell apart in arguments and fear. The old order was over. The age of humanity had begun. The galaxy had never seen chaos like this before. In the 3 weeks since humanity revealed their true strength, every star system was choosing sides. Some species immediately asked to join the humans. Others prepared for war. Many simply tried to hide and hope the storm would pass them by. Admiral Kim Do-yoon stood on the bridge of the battleship New Korea, watching reports flood in from across human space. His ship was one of hundreds now openly patrolling what had once been contested territory. The need for hiding was over. Report from the Outer Rim, his communications officer announced. The Kepler Federation has formally requested alliance with Earth. They are offering their shipyards and mining facilities. Kim nodded. The Kepler colonies had always been friendly to humans. It made sense that they would be among the first to seek protection. What about the Vorthak response? Kim asked. Still preparing for war, sir. They are gathering their fleets at the Crimson Nebula. Intelligence estimates they have over 2,000 ships. Kim almost smiled. 2,000 ships sounded impressive, until you realized that humanity now had over 10,000 vessels scattered across the galaxy. Most of them were still invisible to alien sensors. Sir, another officer called out. Priority message from New Busan, they are under attack. This was it. Kim had been expecting this moment since the revelation on Nexus Prime. The Vorthak Empire, led by their crystal beings who had ruled part of the galaxy for millennia, could not accept that primitive humans had outsmarted them. They needed to prove their superiority, and they had chosen New Busan as their target. "How many ships?" Kim asked. "The entire Vorthak Third Fleet, sir. 350 capital ships plus escorts. Over 1,000 vessels total." Commander No Hyunjin, who had been studying tactical displays, looked up with concern. "Sir, New Busan only has a dozen defense platforms. The colonists there are perfectly safe," Kim finished. "Commander, you seem to have forgotten what New Busan really is." The truth was that New Busan had been chosen as a test site for humanity's newest defensive technologies. What looked like a simple farming colony was actually one of the most heavily defended worlds in human space. "Show me the battle," Kim ordered. The main screen filled with a view of New Busan space. The planet looked peaceful and quiet, with a few orbital stations and some civilian ships moving slowly between them. Then the Vorthak fleet arrived. It was an impressive sight. The crystal ships of the Vorthak were beautiful and deadly, their hulls reflecting starlight like jewels. They moved in perfect formation, confident in their overwhelming superiority. The largest vessel, the flagship Empire's Pride, was 3 kilometers long and armed with weapons that could crack a planet's crust. "Attention, human colonists," came a broadcast from the Vorthak fleet. "You have violated Galaxy Council restrictions by maintaining this illegal settlement. Surrender immediately or face destruction." For several minutes, nothing happened. The human orbital stations continued their peaceful activities as if they had not heard the threat. A few civilian ships actually continued on their planned routes, seemingly ignoring the massive fleet that had appeared. "Foolish humans," the Vorthak commander broadcast again. "You have 30 seconds to surrender." Then time ran out and the Vorthak opened fire. Hundreds of energy beams lanced out toward the human positions. The weapons were powerful enough to vaporize entire mountains. They should have destroyed every human structure in the system within seconds. Instead, something impossible happened. "The beams hit nothing but empty space." "What?" Kim heard the Vorthak commander's confused voice over the intercepted communications. "Targeting computers showed direct hits. Where are the humans?" The answer became clear a moment later. New Busan's defense grid activated. What the Vorthak had thought were simple orbital platforms suddenly revealed themselves as massive weapon arrays. The few civilian ships shed their disguises and became deadly warships. Most shocking of all, the planet itself flickered and vanished, revealing it had been protected by the largest cloaking field ever built. "Full defensive decloak," Commander No reported, watching the tactical display with amazement. New Busan is showing the Vorthak what human engineering can really do. The battle was not really a battle at all. It was a demonstration. Human ships appeared throughout the Vorthak formation, having used their phase cloaking technology to position themselves perfectly. The neural-linked human pilots reacted faster than any alien crew could hope to match. Weapons that had been developed in secret over the past year proved to be far more advanced than anything in the Vorthak arsenal. Within 20 minutes, the entire Vorthak Third Fleet was either destroyed or disabled. The flagship Empire's Pride of their military for over 2 centuries, drifted helplessly in space with its crystal hull, cracked and its weapons offline. "Incredible," breathed Commander No. "They didn't even damage a single human ship." "Send this recording to every news service in the galaxy," Kim ordered. "Make sure everyone sees what happens when you attack humanity." The defeat of the Vorthak Third Fleet sent shockwaves across known space. This was not just a human victory. It was the complete destruction of one of the galaxy's most feared military forces. Species that had been considering resistance to human expansion suddenly began reconsidering their positions. Over the following days, Kim watched as the political map of the galaxy shifted hour by hour. The Stellar Federation, which had voted for human restrictions, sent urgent diplomatic messages requesting negotiations. The Meridian Empire, whose fleets had been among the largest in the galaxy, announced they would not interfere with human activities, but not everyone was ready to surrender. Admiral, his intelligence officer, reported, "We are detecting massive fleet movements throughout the galaxy. The Quillan hegemony is mobilizing their gas giant defense forces. The Outer Ring Alliance is calling up their reserve fleets. Even some of the smaller species are banding together." Kim studied the reports. It seemed that fear was driving many species to unite against humanity. just as it had driven them to vote for restrictions a year earlier. "They are making the same mistake again," he said quietly. "They think this is about military strength." Dr. Song Jiwoo appeared on the communication screen from her research station. "Admiral, I have news about Project Quantum Web. The new network is ready for galaxy-wide deployment." Kim nodded. The Quantum Web was humanity's next surprise for the galaxy. While the aliens prepared for conventional war, humans were about to change the rules of space travel forever. "How soon can we have full coverage?" he asked. 2 weeks for the core systems, 1 month for complete galactic coverage, Song replied. "Once it is active, human ships will be able to travel instantly between any 2 points in the galaxy. This would change everything." The aliens thought they understood human technology based on what they had seen so far. They had no idea that humans were always working on the next breakthrough, the next advantage, the next way to stay ahead of everyone else. "Sir," Commander No interrupted. "Incoming message from Earth. President Yoon wants to speak with you." President Yoon appeared on the main screen looking tired but determined. "Admiral Kim, what is your assessment of the current situation?" "The galaxy is splitting into 3 groups, Mr. President," Kim reported. "Those who want to join us, those who want to fight us, and those who want to hide from us. The fighters outnumber the joiners, but they are badly organized and using old technology. And our forces? Ready for anything they can throw at us," Kim replied confidently. "But sir, I recommend we consider a demonstration of Project Quantum Web before the fighting gets too widespread. Show them that resistance is hopeless." President Yoon was quiet for a moment. "No, Admiral. Let them try to fight us conventionally first. Let them exhaust themselves against our defenses. When they finally realize they cannot win through war, they will be much more willing to listen to reason." Kim understood. This was not just about military victory. This was about completely changing how the galaxy thought about humanity. The old powers needed to be broken not just in battle, but in spirit. "What about the species that want to surrender peacefully?" Kim asked. "Accept them," President Yoon said immediately. "But make it clear that joining humanity means accepting human leadership. The days of the Galaxy Council are over. From now on, there is only the Terran Commonwealth." As the communication ended, Kim looked out at the stars and thought about what was coming. The galaxy had been stable for thousands of years, ruled by ancient species who changed nothing and learned nothing. Humanity was about to shake that stability to pieces. The old order was dying. The question now was how much of the galaxy would die with it. 2 years had passed since the Galaxy Council made their terrible mistake. Fleet Admiral Park Minji, promoted from her position as ambassador, stood in her office on Earth looking at a holographic display of the galaxy. The map showed a very different picture than it had when she first walked out of that council chamber in defeat. Green lights marked the worlds of the Terran Commonwealth, humanity's new galactic government. There were thousands of them now, including many that had once belonged to the old alien empires. Blue lights showed species that had allied with humanity but maintained their independence. Red lights marked the few remaining holdout worlds that still resisted human leadership. There were not many red lights left. "Final report from the Vorthak surrender ceremony," Director Kang Wubin announced as he entered her office. He carried a datapad with the details of humanity's latest diplomatic victory. "How did they take it?" Minji asked. "About as well as you would expect from a species that ruled part of the galaxy for 3,000 years, Kang replied. "Their emperor's crystal body went completely dark when he signed the treaty. But he signed it. The Vorthak Empire had been the last major power to hold out against humanity. For 2 years they had tried everything to restore their former dominance. They had formed alliances with other species, developed new weapons, even attempted to copy human technology. Nothing had worked. The final blow came when humanity activated Project Quantum Web throughout their territory. Human ships could now travel instantly between any 2 points in Commonwealth space. This meant that Earth could reinforce any threatened world within minutes, while alien fleets still needed weeks to move between star systems. "What about the Quillan hegemony?" Minji asked. "They fragmented completely last month," Kang reported. "Most of their gas giant colonies have joined the Commonwealth independently. The central government is just a few worlds now, and they spend more time arguing among themselves than bothering us." Minji nodded. The Quillan had been the second largest power in the old galaxy, but they had never recovered from humanity's economic blockade. When human-protected trade routes offered better prices and safer travel than Quill in space, their economy simply collapsed. And the smaller species? Over 400 have joined the Commonwealth voluntarily, Kang said. They get access to our technology, protection from pirates and raiders, and representation in the new government. Most of them say they prefer human leadership to the old council system. This was the part that made Minji most proud. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy through fear alone. They had offered something better than what existed before. The old Galaxy Council had been dominated by a few ancient species who made decisions for everyone else. The Terran Commonwealth gave every member species a voice in government and a share in the benefits of human technology. Chancellor Lee Taman appeared on her communication screen from his office in New Geneva, the Commonwealth's new capital. Admiral Minji, do you have a moment to review the latest integration reports? Of course, Chancellor, she replied. It still felt strange to use his new title. 3 years ago, Taman had been a ship captain delivering humanity's last plea for peaceful coexistence. Now he was the head of government for over half the galaxy. The economic numbers are remarkable, Taman said, sharing data on her display. Galactic trade volume has increased by 300% since we took over the major shipping routes. Piracy is down 95%. Scientific collaboration between species is at an all-time high. The numbers told an incredible story. Under human leadership, the galaxy was becoming more prosperous and peaceful than it had been in centuries. Human technology was spreading to allied species, lifting their living standards and capabilities. The quantum communication network allowed instant coordination across vast distances. Advanced medical technology was saving lives on thousands of worlds. What about resistance movements? Minji asked. Mostly finished, Taman replied. The Free Galaxy Alliance dissolved when we offered full pardons to their leaders. The Sons of the Old Council gave up after we demonstrated that their secret bases were not actually secret from us. Dr. Song Jiwoo joined the conversation from her research station. The technology sharing programs are exceeding all expectations. We now have joint research projects with over 200 species. The breakthrough rate has increased dramatically. This had been one of humanity's smartest decisions. Instead of keeping their advanced technology secret, they shared it freely with allied species. This created a huge incentive for others to join the Commonwealth, while also accelerating scientific progress for everyone. Any word from the remaining independents? Minji asked. The Centauri Republic sent another diplomatic message, Taman reported. They want to discuss terms for joining the Commonwealth. The Outer Rim Confederacy is considering it too. Minji smiled. When she had walked out of the Galaxy Council chambers 3 years ago, she had promised consequences for their vote against humanity. Even she had not imagined how complete those consequences would be. There is one more thing, Kang said quietly. We received a message from Nexus Prime. Nexus Prime. The world where the Galaxy Council had met, where humanity had been rejected and restricted. The place where this whole transformation had begun. What do they want? Minji asked. They want to join the Commonwealth, Kang replied. The planetary government says they have learned from their mistakes and want to be part of humanity's vision for the galaxy. For a moment, Minji was quiet. The irony was almost too perfect. The world that had hosted humanity's humiliation now wanted to join the government that had grown from that humiliation. What do you think, Admiral? Taman asked. I think we should accept them, Minji said finally. But make sure they understand that they are joining as equals, not as leaders. The old Galaxy Council is dead. There is only the Commonwealth now. As the conversation ended, Minji walked to her window and looked out at Earth's orbital stations. The view had changed dramatically over the past few years. Ships from dozens of species moved through Earth's space, their crews working together on projects that would have been impossible under the old system. She thought about the young human colonies that had been forced to evacuate when the Council voted against expansion. Those same colonies were now thriving centers of interspecies cooperation, protected by the most advanced defense networks in galactic history. Agent Lim Soo-young, back from her long undercover mission, knocked on the door and entered. Admiral, the former Speaker Vorthak Prime is here for his appointment. Send him in, Minji said. The crystal being who had once led the Galaxy Council entered her office slowly. His body, which had once sparkled with confident light, now glowed dimly with what humans had learned was a sign of defeat among his species. Fleet Admiral Park, he said formally. Thank you for agreeing to see me. What can I do for you, former speaker? Minji asked politely. I wanted to apologize, he said quietly. 3 years ago, my species led the vote against human expansion. We thought we were preventing a catastrophe. Instead, we created one. Minji nodded but said nothing. We were wrong about humanity, he continued. We thought you would conquer us through force. We never imagined you would conquer us by being better leaders than we were. We never wanted to conquer anyone, Minji replied. We wanted to be part of something bigger than ourselves. When you rejected that desire, you forced us to create something bigger than anything that existed before. The galaxy is better now, the former speaker admitted. More peaceful, more prosperous, more fair. Even my own people live better under Commonwealth rule than they did under our empire. Then why do you seem so sad? Minji asked. Because we had the chance to build this together, he said. If we had accepted humanity as partners instead of fearing you as enemies, we could have shared in creating this new galaxy. Instead, we forced you to build it without us. Minji considered his words. It is not too late, you know. The Commonwealth accepts any species that wants to contribute to our vision of the future. As junior partners, he said. As equals, Minji corrected, but not as leaders. Those positions are earned through competence and vision, not inherited through age or tradition. After the former speaker left, Minji returned to her star map. The galaxy that stretched out before humanity now was vast and full of potential. Hundreds of species were working together on projects that would have been impossible under the old system. Scientific breakthroughs happened monthly instead of yearly. Trade and communication flowed freely along protected routes, and at the center of it all was humanity, not as conquerors, but as the species that had refused to accept that things must always stay the same. She thought about that day in the council chambers when everything had changed. The aliens had voted against Earth because they feared what humanity might become. Their fear had been correct, but their solution had been catastrophically wrong. Humanity had become exactly what the aliens feared, the dominant power in the galaxy. But not through conquest or oppression. They had become dominant by offering something better than what existed before. The old powers had ruled through tradition and fear. Humanity ruled through innovation and hope. The Galaxy Council had voted against Earth and faced humanity's wrath.